Good morning, guys, and welcome back to the channel. We're back with my Rivian R1T, and I want to talk to you guys about this recent service experience I had. It's actually been a few months. I just haven't had a time to do a video of it. But come over here, I'll tell you how this started. It actually started with this. So I noticed my Rivian was leaking something. There's a couple of spots on the floor still here, but the leak seemed like it was coming from kind of the rear end, near maybe the passenger side rear end or something like that. It's weird because, you know, when you think of an electric vehicle, you don't really think about things leaking. So I'm like, okay, let me take it to Rivian and see what they say. Most people thought it was just suspension parts or whatever, but I want to read to you the list of stuff that Rivian replaced on my car. You ready for this? Rear drive unit assembly, complete swap. We're talking about the actual drive unit, which is a pretty expensive part. Washers and bolts, 10 liters of coolant, all 4 damper modules, so front and back, rear, left and right. That used up 8 quarts of hydraulic damper fluid. Multiple O-rings, spacers, fasteners, things like that. Both front half shafts, crazy. Front hubs, all related bolts and nuts and mounting. Rear diffuser, they changed that because it got so much oil on it that they couldn't clean it up, so they had to replace it. Rear high voltage battery underbody panel and rear subframe underbody panel. So those are just panelings. Again, they were nice enough to replace those because the fluids had gotten on them and they were hard to clean. This is the crazy one, and I don't think they replaced this because there was something wrong with it. They just wanted to update the car, which I'm very happy that they did. Complete front subframe. So they gave me the subframe from the 2nd generation of R1T, which completely changed the drive dynamics of this car, believe it or not. It is a very different car to drive, and I noticed it immediately as I got in the car. Left and right lower control arms. Front, left, and right steering knuckles. Then they had to, obviously with all that, they had to do a 4-wheel alignment and recalibration. They had to replace all the brake fluid and bleed, which took 8 units of fluid. And then they had to replace the wheel speed sensor for some reason. Bunch of brackets, pump brackets, ESP brake unit bracket, the arch liner, they replaced that, and a lot more stuff. So that was 31 hours of labor, which if we just kind of assume 200 bucks an hour is like $6,000. Also, they gave me a Jeep Wagoneer at the Enterprise rental car down the street, which is like 200 bucks a day for the whole time they had this car, plus all the parts. And by my calculation, we're somewhere around 25,000 bucks worth of expenses to Rivian to do all of that. Now, you have to ask yourself, why did that happen? I don't drive this car that much. I've had it since like May of 2022, so it's been just over 3 years, and it doesn't even have 30,000 miles on it. It's like 20-something thousand miles. So it's less than 10,000 miles a year, and it's only been off-road a handful of times, really nothing aggressive. Like trail, and the rest of the time it's just on street. Now I do drive it very fast. It's aggressive driving, I would say. So the launches and whatnot, not like a launch control launch, but I do kind of get on it. But that's not the kind of thing that would break this car, I don't think. What's nice is Rivian stepped up. They replaced all of these parts. I couldn't have believed that there would be anything wrong with them. So they spent a ton of money replacing all these cars. They really stepped up, and that's great. As good as that is for me that they stepped up to do that, as an investor, I'm not all that sure that is something I want to hear. Like, do all of these R1Ts end up costing Rivian 20, 30 grand in repairs in just a few years? That's a little crazy. I haven't checked out there in a while. I haven't been part of the forums and whatnot in some time because I've just been busy with other stuff. So I don't know if other people are having similar issues with that drive unit leak and the suspension parts. Certainly they didn't need to replace the subframe with Gen 2. That was just nice of them. And I assume that's what made the biggest difference in the driving dynamics. Now, right after that, there was also a software update that changed kind of suspension and things like that. And it made it really a lot nicer to drive over like uneven surfaces diagonally. We'll do that in a quick drive here just so you can kind of get an idea what I'm talking about. There's this one corner that I go on, and there's the bumps are in that corner it is super uncomfortable, almost any vehicle, and it was very uncomfortable in the R1T until these two changes happen. And now it's actually very, very easy to handle. So anyway, give me your thoughts, guys, in the comments. I want to hear what you think of all of the parts that I named, and I'll put them on the screen too, that were replaced on this truck. It's a little concerning. Now, I usually, when I buy a car, I try to get all the history that I can. If I saw the history of all of these parts being replaced at once, I would be asking some questions like, what exactly happened that caused the drive unit and all of the suspension parts to go out so that they had to get replaced? That's a thing that I think Rivian really needs to kind of think about in their second generation of cars. I see the newer updated R1Ts out, and I see that there's a lot of things that they didn't address. Now, there's two reasons why I'm not considering buying an R1T second generation. One is obviously the absence of Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I think that's an ongoing bad decision. And I think 80% of you guys, maybe even 90%, really agree with me. The other thing is this. So you've got this kind of this single panel that follows the car all the way to the bed. This is all one body part, like from like about here, all the way through, all the way up, and all the way to this. And you might say, why do you care? Well, here's the problem with the R1T and just the R1 platform altogether. If this car is in any sort of a crash, even a minor one, the repair costs are insane. So most cars that have even a minor kind of rear end accident, they end up getting totaled because it's just really difficult to repair something like this. Now, that's kind of the reason why you would maybe create a couple of separate panels so you could just replace them. But in this car, that's not the case. So that's maybe the second reason. Otherwise, I absolutely have loved this car. The service experience they are very nice, okay? And they go out of their way to do this type of thing where they replace $20,000+ worth of parts on your car, and they want to do it correctly. But there's two problems with that. Getting a service appointment can sometimes be very challenging. With this, it wasn't actually. I have to say that. If you go on the app and try to book a service appointment right now, you might get something 2-3 months out. But with this, they said that unit leaking is likely a more urgent thing. We'll try to get you in this week. And they got me in right away. They started working on it. So I will say that when it's urgent, they do step up. So that's a good thing. But then the service staff, they're not very knowledgeable sometimes. As nice as they are, they're not knowledgeable. They don't know about the car as much as they really should. And sometimes that can cause issues. A lot of times you'll communicate an issue. They'll take it down. You'll come back to pick up your car. They didn't even get to that issue at all. And it's something you maybe have been waiting on for several months. One prime example of that is the choppy audio situation, which some of you know about. Another example of that where my seatbelt tensioners were super loose, and I took it in for this leak problem, and I told them about the seatbelt tensioner. They said they would fix it all. It took a few weeks to get the car done. Got the car back. Seatbelts are still hanging out. And I'm like, what happened with those? They're like, oh yeah, we'll handle that next time. I'm like, look, it was already here for a couple of weeks. You could have taken care of it. Anyway, so there are some issues with service. But tell you what, let's go for a quick drive, and I'll show you how I feel the subframe has changed the suspension on this car. Yeah, so some of the things that have changed now since that subframe assembly was replaced, the car is less noisy. So I remember the suspension making all kinds of weird noises, like almost sounded like, not liquid, but like, I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Those of you who have been driving an R1T for a while, you know what I'm talking about. That noise is gone. And then also it just feels a lot more stable, especially when I like take my foot off the accelerator, which is essentially braking in a Rivian. When I do that, it doesn't have that same kind of like launch forward motion. It used to feel like it had like a bit of a drop, but it doesn't have that anymore. And it's just a little more planted. Also, going over bumps and uneven terrain and things like that, it's a lot more put together, it feels like. This subframe did change the game quite a bit. Now, keep in mind, all the other parts they changed, I think they changed with same Gen 1 parts, except for that subframe. And I got the car back before the software update, and I noticed the difference in that right away. It did make a big difference. And I'm driving to that little spot right now that is notoriously bad for the suspension on any car, really. I remember my Jeep Gladiator used to just completely struggle on this corner that I'm going to. This car used to struggle there. It still doesn't do like incredibly well, but it's way improved. Way improved. And both of those things made an improvement. The subframe change and the software update, they both made a significant improvement in the corner we're going to. Hopefully with the camera we can really capture what kind of terrain we're talking about, and all of you know about this. So like the kind of thing it is, it's like if you're in a big parking lot, like a shopping center parking lot, and there's all these big speed bumps, and sometimes you have to go on them sideways, right? If you go straight head on to a speed bump, it's just normal speed bump, right? But when you go sideways, there's a lot going on, right? Your tires are at different elevations and the suspension is doing all kinds of weird stuff, and it's just not a comfortable scenario. And that's kind of what this corner is. We're coming up on this right-hand turn here up ahead. You're inside the car with me, and I'm just going to describe it. Here we go. We're going into it, and that's it. This used to be more of one of these experiences, right? And now it's way more planted, just a lot more comfortable to do. It's tough, right? Like describing emotion with video is sometimes you can't catch it, but I hope you guys know what I'm talking about. Just take my word for it. Huge improvement over the way this car used to handle, and I'm very happy that that change happened. And I'm thankful to Rivian for doing me the favor of stepping me up to the updated subframe. But again, I am concerned if Rivian has to deal with this on every one of these R1Ts and maybe even R1Ss. Gen 1s, there's a lot of them out there. Not a ton, that's still a lot of cars. I'm gonna guess it's like 50,000 cars, maybe more. Now keep in mind, I am one of the first 2,000 cars Rivian made. I was like one of the very first deliveries, and for the longest time, I was the only Rivian on the road anywhere here near where I live. It's possible I have some more outdated parts than some other folks do, even in Gen 1. I've heard of that leak happening to others, and I wonder if it's just a chronic problem that's gonna plague other Rivians, and I wonder when my other drive units may have to get replaced. And for that reason, I'm skeptical of how they're gonna survive that as a company. This car did not make them any money to begin with, and now they're out another 25 grand. The next generation of cars they're putting out, they're super promising. People are very excited about them, and I hope that they don't have these problems, but boy, oh boy, that's a pretty expensive issue. Do want to address one quick thing, and I see reviewers that don't drive these things every day get in them and drive them. Specific one, Straight Pipes, they did a review of, I think the Gen 2 cars, and they put it on sport mode, and then they complained about how stiff the suspension was. Yeah, it is going to be stiff, sports mode, right? This car is meant to be driven in all-purpose mode, and I'll show you. So there's all these drive selectors here. So you can do all-purpose, conserve, sport, or snow. And all-purpose is where this car lives. So if you're out testing out a Rivian R1T to see whether or not you like it, just keep it in that mode, will you? The sport mode is really just for launching, and if you're gonna take corners really fast for whatever reason, it does handle very well. Almost like a car, but it is not a comfortable thing, and it is kind of jerky. They've addressed that too in recent updates, but again, you know, don't complain about what you know to be stiff. Just my 2 cents on that. Not trying to defend the car too much. I think I've bashed the company enough in one video. Overall, very happy with my ownership experience. 10 out of 10, I would do it again if I were to start back in 2022. Just skeptical about going forward with another one, especially if I can't get Apple CarPlay. If you add Apple CarPlay, by the way, I'll live with everything. I'll re-up again. Tomorrow morning, I'll place my order for a quad motor Gen 2 if you just add Apple CarPlay. Just so you know that. RJ, if you're listening, Apple CarPlay, you add that, I will place my order immediately. Love this car, and love the company. And I want it to survive and succeed. Just add that one thing, please. Okay, guys, I'm out. click that subscribe button. See me on the next one. I've got some air-cooled Porsche videos coming up in the next few weeks. We're getting the car completely taken apart and ready for all the body work that needs to get done and paint and whatnot. So I hope you tune in for a lot of that. See you on the next one.